Welcome back to Health Reboot, the podcast where we explore how our body systems are interconnected and how we can take charge of our health to live our best lives. Today, we've got something really fascinating to dive into. We're talking about leaky gut syndrome and its surprising connection to hair loss. That's right, you might be dealing with hair loss, and the root cause could be hiding in your gut. Before we get started, I'm so excited to have Layla, my co-host and expert in holistic health, with us today to unpack this topic. Layla, thank you so much for being here.
Loida, thanks for having me. I'm thrilled to be here and to dive into this important conversation about gut health and hair loss.
Layla, I've always suspected that my hair loss was related to my gut issues, so a little bit ago, I started doing some of my own research. Based on what I found, I've started to take L-glutamine in high doses as well as probiotics to help heal my gut, so I'm really excited to hear what you have to share with us today.
You are not alone. You've probably heard of hair loss affecting millions of people. But what you might not know is that recent studies show up to 80% of people with unexplained hair loss also have some kind of underlying digestive issue.
Wow, that's such a surprising connection. And hair loss in women is not a topic we talk about often. I've come to realize lots of women are suffering from hair loss. I was just not aware about the extent of this problem until I started investigating this and talking to women around me. So, how exactly does our gut health influence hair growth?
It all comes down to something called leaky gut syndrome, which happens when the protective lining of our intestines becomes damaged. Think of it like a security checkpoint that stopped doing its job properly. Only, instead of letting just the good stuff pass through, it lets all kinds of harmful substances slip through.
So you're telling me that all those expensive hair treatments people are buying might not even be addressing the real problem?
Exactly right. And here's what's fascinating. Research has identified 3 major ways that gut health affects our hair. The first is through a cascade of inflammatory responses. When toxins leak into your bloodstream, your immune system goes into overdrive, basically putting your body in constant fight mode.
I discovered this connection firsthand. I had a scalp biopsy done recently because of some concerning hair loss. And guess what showed up? Inflammation. The same thing that kept appearing in other health issues I've dealt with. That makes me think about how chronic inflammation affects other parts of our body, too. How specifically does this impact our hair follicles?
Well, just imagine your hair follicles as tiny gardens. When there's constant inflammation, it's like having toxic rain falling on these gardens day after day. Studies show that this chronic inflammation can increase hair shedding by up to 30% in some people.
That's such a striking statistic. What about the other ways leaky gut affects our hair?
The second major impact involves nutrient deficiencies. Even if you're taking all the right supplements and eating a perfect diet, a damaged gut lining can reduce nutrient absorption by up to 50%. This means crucial hair growth nutrients like biotin, zinc, iron, and protein aren't getting where they need to go.
Oh, wow. So even someone with a seemingly perfect diet could still be nutritionally deficient?
Exactly. And here's where it gets really interesting. These nutritional deficiencies trigger a domino effect of hormonal imbalances, which is the third major impact. Recent studies show that up to 70% of people with leaky gut also experience some form of hormonal disruption.
That explains why so many women experience hair thinning during major hormonal shifts. What can people actually do about this?
Well, the good news is that research shows gut healing can begin within just 2 to 3 weeks of making the right changes. The first step is eliminating what I call the gut destroyers: processed sugar, gluten, dairy, artificial sweeteners, and inflammatory seed oils. Studies indicate that removing these foods can reduce gut inflammation by up to 40% in just 1 month.
Those numbers are really encouraging. What about specific foods that can help heal the gut?
This is where it gets exciting. Clinical studies have shown that bone broth can reduce gut inflammation by up to 60% due to its high collagen content. Fermented foods like kimchi and sauerkraut can increase beneficial gut bacteria by up to 10,000 times in just a few servings.
That's fascinating. And what about supplements? Are there specific ones that have been proven to work?
Yes, and the research here is really compelling. L-glutamine supplementation has been shown to reduce intestinal permeability by up to 45% in clinical trials. Specific probiotic strains can enhance nutrient absorption by up to 65%, and zinc supplementation can improve gut barrier function by about 30%.
That's great. I've been taking L-glutamine and probiotics, but I'm wondering if I'm doing it right. What do you do when you need a gut reboot?
Let me break down the protocol that I usually follow when I start noticing issues with my gut. I start with 5 grams of L-glutamine twice daily. Then I increase the dose to 5 grams 4 times daily on day 2. Days 3 through 8, I take 5 grams 6 times daily. After that, I maintain with 5 to 10 grams per day. If I am eating a relatively clean diet, I simply take 5 grams per day during the maintenance phase. But if I eat something that is not that healthy, I will increase my dose to 10 grams that day.
That's super helpful. But, why do we need to spread it out like that? Wouldn't it be easier to just take it all at once?
Yeah, it would be easier. But the research shows L-glutamine absorbs best in smaller doses on an empty stomach. And here's a crucial tip: never take it with warm or hot drinks, because heat actually degrades the glutamine.
Can we add the glutamine powder to juice, tea, smoothie, or other beverages that are not water?
No, your body will absorb it best when taken by itself, so only mix it with cold or room temperature water. This is a huge mistake that lots of people do, and then they wonder why glutamine is not working for them.
Thanks for all the tips on how to take glutamine correctly. What about taking digestive enzymes?
Digestive enzymes are super important. They help break down your food, reducing inflammation and improving nutrient absorption. This means your gut can heal faster, and you'll feel better overall.
And we can't forget about probiotics, right? Probiotics help to rebuild the gut flora and get rid of the bad bacteria. I usually take a probiotic in the morning after my L-glutamine dose.
That's perfect. This combination of L-glutamine, digestive enzymes, and probiotics is a winner for covering all of your bases. It's a holistic approach, starting with what you're eating, how your gut processes it, and improving overall health from the inside out.
And what about the stress factor? I've heard that can impact gut health too.
You're absolutely right about that. Studies show that chronic stress can increase gut permeability by up to 25%. But here's the fascinating part. Simple stress reduction techniques like deep breathing before meals can improve nutrient absorption by up to 40%.
That's incredible that something as simple as breathing exercises can have such a huge impact. What about exercise? Does that play a role in all this?
Yes, of course. Exercise helps with a lot of things. Moderate exercise improves gut barrier function by 20% and increases blood flow to hair follicles by 30%. But be careful. Excessive exercise can actually damage gut health.
Oh, okay. I would have never imagined that too much exercise could affect my gut. But why is that?
I know. Isn't that crazy? Too much exercise can actually mess with your gut more than you'd think. So, when you're pushing your body really hard, your blood flow gets diverted away from digestion and sent to your muscles instead, which can kind of weaken the gut lining. Plus, intense workouts spike stress hormones like cortisol, and that can break down the intestinal barrier and cause inflammation. And if you're dehydrated or working out in really hot conditions, that just makes it worse. Your gut lining gets even more fragile. Oh, and overtraining can also throw off your gut bacteria, which just adds to the problem. So, yeah, exercise is awesome, but too much? It can totally backfire on your gut and your overall health.
Okay, got it. So before we wrap up, what would you say are the 3 steps someone should take if they suspect their gut health might be affecting their hair?
Sure, this is what I would do. I would start with a food and symptom journal to identify trigger foods, eliminate the gut destroyers we discussed earlier, and begin a basic protocol of L-glutamine, probiotics, and digestive enzymes, always consulting with a healthcare provider first.
I love how this strategy really tackles the root of the issue. It's empowering for people to know that they can take control of their gut health and in turn improve their hair growth and overall well-being. I'd like to thank you again, Layla, for being here today and sharing all this valuable information with our listeners. You always make things so clear and actionable.
Thank you for having me, Loida. It's always a pleasure to be here, and I'm so happy we could explore this important topic together.
And thank you all for listening. If you're struggling with hair loss, don't just treat the symptoms. Addressing gut health can really make a huge difference. We encourage you to try these strategies and see the benefits for yourself. And as always, consult with a healthcare professional before starting any new supplement regimen. We'll be back next week with more tips on how to optimize your health. Thanks for tuning in.